Hello, everyone. I am Luke Reinhardt. Welcome to Closing the Gap, a podcast dedicated to your growth. Brought to you by Wellspring Coaching Services and hosted by myself and my wife, Katie. You know, people have gaps that prevent them from growing. Our goal is to empower you to close those gaps by increasing your awareness, confidence, and clarity. Join us today as we help you close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today, we are going to talk about building confidence.
All right.
In our last episode, we talked about awareness.
Yeah.
And through coaching, this is kind of our goal, is to increase awareness, build confidence, gain clarity, so that you can maximize your potential, realize your goals, and live life to the full.
Yeah.
So we're going to focus on building confidence today.
Okay, I think it's such a great...
what that might look like.
It's a great topic because so many people want to be confident. And they want their children to be confident. And they want, their spouses to be confident. And they want their friends to be confident. It's like you hear this, like self-confidence. And probably in the self-help section of most bookstores, there's a huge emphasis on building confidence, right?
Yeah. And confidence is the ability to rely on or trust in someone or something, right?
Okay.
So that someone could be you in certain circumstances. It could be somebody else.
Okay. Like having confidence, like if you were bungee jumping, you want to have confidence in your equipment.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And I've done a lot of rock climbing in the past. And
yeah.
certainly you want to have, when you're belaying or rappelling, you want to have confidence that that equipment's going to, or that anchor is going to stay on the rock or whatever.
That reminds me of a story, which I wasn't thinking about when we were talking about this podcast. But when you took me rappelling for the first time, I was nervous to go over the edge. And if you guys don't know what rappelling is, like you're holding a rope, but you're going down the mountain rather than climbing up. You're going down and you're attached to the rope. And so going over the edge just feels very, very unnatural. But as soon as I made that, step to go over the edge and I'm going down, and I was like, I felt like I was building confidence right away. Like, oh my goodness, I'm going down. And I remember you just kind of saying down to me, like shouting down, like don't be overconfident, because there is a sense that, you could get loose or you could get, mistakes are going to be made if you have overconfidence. I knew what you meant. Yeah. Really, I don't know if that's a real thing.
It could be like driving.
True.
I mean? You wouldn't want a young teen to be overconfident in their driving skills.
True.
You still got to proceed with caution.
Yes. You were saying what you're saying when you say that is don't lose your sense of awareness.
Yeah.
And the caution, conventional wisdom, like things happen. Bad things can happen still. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And there's just so many factors and all those things.
So, right.
Like in driving, there's just so many factors that go beyond your ability to drive.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, self-confidence is also kind of being properly prepared.
Yeah.
I think of it like, if we were going to be rock climbing, you'd want to know what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it.
Right.
You would want to have examined the ropes, the anchors, to make sure that everything's functioning properly.
Right.
You're going to want to be prepared.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel confident at all unless you're prepared to do it properly.
Right. I guess I totally agree. I'm just thinking of situations too where some people naturally walk around with a level of confidence that, it's all right. I can do this. I don't have to have the right shoes or the right this or whatever. I got this. And that might border on foolishness,
exactly.
Right?
That's what I was going to say. There's a fine line between confidence and foolishness.
Okay,
and that's a very important note for sure. Yeah.
Because if I were to follow that person, like, well, they did it. Yeah. They did it like that.
Yeah.
But I don't. I don't have the same, and sometimes it's that energy of the overconfidence that can get you by, get you through by the skin of your teeth sort of thing.
Yeah.
But not everybody can just follow in the footsteps of that, right?
Well, there's confidence, and then there's foolishness.
Right.
Like if I were to jump into, like if back to jiu-jitsu, if I were to go and compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament that I did not prepare for, but that I'm pretending to be confident about, it's cockiness.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And it's foolishness at the same time to think that
you could pull it.
I could pull it off, without training properly and doing what I need to do, in order to be prepared, in order to succeed, right. So there's all three of those elements there, and that's important. So like confidence comes through being properly prepared, and a well executed game plan builds confidence. We've been watching SEAL Team a little bit recently, and
TV show.
How they, before they go on their missions, they often replicate what they're going to be doing, the scene, the environment, and they have to execute the game plan over and over again
and get it under a certain time frame, be super efficient.
And that well executed game plan is going to build their confidence of being able to succeed when the reality, they're in their real situation, the real mission.
And they can adjust more quickly to deviations because they do practice, well, what if this happens, or what if this happens, what's step B? You don't have to think. And a lot of times having that muscle memory in place and having that system down saves your life, for especially in the military, but it can proverbially save your life for us normal civilians too.
No matter what it is, whether it's SEAL Team or MMA or jiu-jitsu or a soccer game or whatever it is, we develop game plans. That's kind of how we succeed, right? But when we develop a game plan and then we begin to test out the game plan, we see immediately things are going to shift, right? And so the game plan becomes more effective, more efficient through the practicing of the game plan. We make it better as we practice and learn. Okay, this might happen, or this might happen. I wasn't thinking about these factors, and those factors are going to change the game plan and make the game plan more efficient, more effective. So that developing a game plan and then properly training and practicing the game plan. All of that process is going to build and increase our confidence in the game plan, right? Which in turn is going to build the confidence in ourselves being able to execute the game plan.
Yeah, that's true. Would you say, too, that pushing yourself a little beyond your natural limit can build confidence? Yeah, I'm thinking of a story with our dog. I don't know if any of you listeners have dogs, but we had a dog that was a rescue, and he had pretty bad manners when we got him. We had to work with him. But one of the things that we were told to do by a trainer was to build his confidence. And so we ended up taking him up to a hiking area. It's called Cunningham Falls. It's near where we live. And kind of going through, it's like there's waterfalls and there's rocks, and it's, you have to get sure footing when you're going over, and we often will climb up through the rocks and the water. And so we took the dog, and we had to keep him leashed, obviously, but we let him sort of walk through the water and step through the stones. And it was like after that first trip, he was like a different dog. Like he realized, like, I can do this. I can climb this like steep rocky area. And we kept building his confidence the whole time, saying, good job, way to go, way to go. And it was cool to see that just him pushing through his natural limit. We weren't walking on the street like we normally do. We were like in this new kind of adventure and uncharted territory. And for him to learn how to do those things made him less reactive to other dogs. He wasn't barking or, the bravado. And this is true of humans, I think. We have to push ourselves to know that you've accomplished something that was challenging or difficult. It just makes you feel like, you know what? I don't need to like show off or act a certain way arrogantly, because I feel sort of insecure about this. I know I can do it, so I don't even really have to mention it. So, and that could be like pushing yourself physically, or even doing things like out of your comfort zone, right? Like maybe travel or something like that. The more you do it, that's true. The more you execute the pattern and learn the ways. You're going to build your confidence in that. It's not going to be so... Well, I take this whole point, too. We homeschool our kids. And one of our two goals with our homeschooling is, One is to make our kids lifelong learners so that they feel equipped to learn anything they want to. We're not going to be able to teach them everything. They're going to have gaps and holes in their education, even to the best of our ability. But we want them to know, I can learn that myself, anything I want to learn. But the other piece is that I want to expose them. This is what I'm leading to, is the idea of exposure.
Yeah.
Is that, I want them to be exposed to lots of different scenarios, lots of different situations, just so that they don't feel nervous or scared when they're in that. Like, as an adult, if they're asked to go to a dinner party, do they know which fork to use? If they're wanting to learn a new language, have they ever been exposed to people who speak a different language, right? Like, there's so many different ways of doing life and different situations that you can find yourself in as an adult, that even riding like public transportation, that's intimidating if you've never done it, right? Yeah. So, yes, our kids will probably learn to drive and do that, the traditional form, but public transportation is super valuable and highly used in plenty of places around the world. And for them not to even know how to get a bus pass or ride the metro or, how to board a train and pick their ticket. Like, these things are really important skills to learn that will build their confidence as they go out in the world.
Yeah, and our last podcast, again, was on awareness, and exposure is just another form of increasing awareness.
Yeah, true.
And it kind of just demonstrates how growing in awareness actually builds confidence.
Right.
Yeah.
And leads to more freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
it's all coming together.
Yes, yes. One important factor, however, is that as we're growing in confidence, we should also strive to grow in humility. Because to grow or to excel in one without the other is going to corrupt the essence of both. So what does that mean? I mean, like, if I'm growing in confidence and not in humility, then that I am going to kind of become more cocky, prideful, and possibly do some very foolish things. Just have foolish thoughts that, I'm invincible or whatever it may be, right?
Right. You become dangerous almost.
Yeah, you become dangerous. Yeah. And it's, and even as a teacher or an instructor, you have knowledge that you're sharing and you're confident in, but you want to approach your students in humility.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And not put yourself above them in any way, but just see it as a time of sharing and also, an experience that you can also learn from through the teaching. I always feel that way. I feel that when I'm teaching, I'm actually learning more than when I'm being a student, you know? So... and
that's part of, like, with our other business, which is martial arts school, that's part of the system built in with martial arts, is that as you grow in your belt levels, you almost can't even attain certain belt levels unless you've taught those who are coming before, after you. In other words, like a lower belt level. So that's because we all know that you learn the techniques and you learn the philosophy more deeply when you have to teach it to others.
And it's very easy in a martial arts school for an instructor or for a student to be excelling and growing and working up through the ranks and then be demanding more respect because they're growing in pride and they demand more respect.
Cobra Kai.
Where it should be the other way around, is when you're growing and excelling in the martial art, you should be growing in your ability to show respect.
Yes.
Versus getting the respect. And that's also another level of humility that's involved. So if you're growing in pride, you're going to demand respect.
Right.
If you're growing in humility, you're going to demonstrate respect at a higher level.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I think we'll probably do a future podcast on leadership a little bit more, but that you're speaking about positional leadership, where based on now that I'm the higher level, or I'm the supervisor, or I'm the director, that I expect, this sort of treatment, versus being like, no, I'm a servant now. I'm the highest level servant in this department, and that's how I need to function. I need to serve others. I need to take the leadership seriously enough to understand that I'm working with a group of people that I need to help perform at their highest level, whether that's parenting or working as a boss in wherever you're in a leadership role. So
as you're growing in confidence, you also want to be practice growing in humility. And that's really the ability to put other people's interests above your own and to in a sense, see others as better than yourself.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the opposite of pride. And it actually takes confidence to practice humility.
Yeah.
Because if you're not confident in yourself and who you are, it's going to be hard for you to put yourself beneath others.
That's true.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're constantly doing that and you're not confident, you can also become like a doormat. You know what I mean? And just let people trample over you.
Yeah, you become exploitable.
You know, your self-worth and things like that might be very low. So it is important that we're also preparing ourselves and being confident. And, you know, there's just a fine line between all this stuff. You know, we're talking about confidence and cockiness, and we're talking about pride and humility and how these things all function and work together or against one another. It's definitely worth your time thinking about this. And reflecting on it, and then putting these things to practice.
Yeah. And I think, too, checking your motivation for some of the stuff you're doing is a big, big part of it. So if you're trying to achieve a goal and you're working towards something and it's becoming part of, you're doing it to sort of puff yourself up or to make it part of your identity, then it's going to be hard to be humble in it, right? Like if you're coming, you know, if you want to train in a certain martial art or in a sport and you're like determined. Actually, I even heard a teacher of a new Christian, someone who was new to the faith, the Christian faith, saying, I'm going to read the Bible and I'm going to be the best Bible student ever, right? That was the goal. You know, if you're coming in with that, that's more about you and your identity. That's not so much like where you're humbling yourself to the practice, or like, what can I learn from this, or how can I change? You know, how can I grow? How can I change? So I think it's important to check your motivation. You know, too, because true confidence, what we're talking about is true confidence, is being tested in the fire, and you come out tougher on the other end. Like you're more resilient, I guess. And you're stronger. I have a quote more useful that I use that says, a gentle lion is still a lion. And that's, you know, a lion obviously is the king, right? And could rip any human apart in a moment, but a tame lion, you know, is still a lion. It's power under control. And that's how I kind of see confidence and humility. It's a level of gentleness, which is power under control, you know, and I think it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I do too. Yeah. And we all want to grow in confidence, and we want it to develop through through awareness and through practice and through right motivation and through game planning. Right? Yeah. So in order to build your confidence, you know, how do you game plan? You know, how do you do that? You know, it just depends on, you have to understand, we talk about getting from where you are to where you want to be. Well, first you have to understand where you are, and you have to understand where you want to be. Right. And that could come in many forms. It could be just a simple goal. You know, you know, I can only do 10 push-ups now. I want to be able to do 100. Okay, we're at 10. We want to get to 100. How do we do that? We make a plan for doing that. Okay, well, you can do 10 today. Let's try to do 11 tomorrow, right? And then 12 the next day. And let's just try it that way, you know, but you may do it differently, but that's a game plan, right? So being able to establish that game plan is learning where you're at and knowing where you want to be. And that's the starting point of being able to develop a game plan. Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And then being able to practice and execute that game plan efficiently and effectively it's gonna build your confidence. Totally. Yeah. And like we said, you can really, I mean, I believe what we're talking about can be applied to so many different disciplines. This could be even, I'm thinking of my favorite book, Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen book, where there's a great scene, even in one of the movies I'm thinking about, where the leading character, Mr. Darcy, who one might argue he's proud and his social skills are a little lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And the leading lady, Elizabeth Bennet, sort of challenges him. She's playing the piano and he comes over and is complimenting her, and she's like, oh, I'm not, I'm really not that good. If I had chosen to practice more, I could really be better at this.
Yeah.
And she's asking about, his social skills, kind of commenting on his lack of social skills. And he says, I'm just awkward in this way, it's just, and she says, well, when you practice, it's your own fault. If you don't practice, how would you get better? I know I'm not as good at this piano playing because I haven't chosen to employ my time that way.
Yeah.
And so, and he says, you're right. Good point. And so the next scene is him showing up to engage socially with her, making a nice visit. And so it's like, we need to be challenged sometimes on the areas people pointing out to us. Like, that's a hard hit sometimes to be told, like, you're a little bit like awkward, or, you're not very good at that, or whatever. But if we say, oh, you know what, I think that's true, I'm going to game plan, I'm going to go ahead and practice that, then you build confidence in that area and you become better at it.
All goes back to Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, it does. All things do.
Well, and then you just made me think, too, how to have confidence in one thing doesn't necessarily mean you have confidence in another thing.
True.
So just because I have confidence in jiu-jitsu doesn't mean I have confidence. I could go perform and I could go compete, but it doesn't mean that I would necessarily have the confidence to put on a guitar performance.
Right. Right.
Unless I was properly prepared to do so.
Right.
But through the practice of getting into something, creating a game plan for improvement, executing that game plan, and knowing that you have done it and built your confidence in one thing, also build your confidence in the fact that you could do it for another thing. Yeah. And that's just your overall self-confidence now. So putting these things to practice and succeeding is going to just say, okay, well, I know I did it here, so why can't I do it there?
Yeah, that's true. There's a quote from a movie. I'm trying to think. It was an Anthony Hopkins movie where they get trapped out in the woods. I think Alec Baldwin's in that movie too. But it basically says what one man can do, another man can do, and it sort of helps them remember that other people have been lost in the woods and they survived. What one man can do, another man can do. And I've repeated that to myself sometimes, what one woman can do, another woman can do, or man as in mankind, what one human can do, another human can do. And of course, that's not exactly true. But the idea is that, I'm teachable and I can grow. Like, our capacity for growth is pretty limitless. Like, it's pretty amazing. And we've seen a lot of cool things even in our martial arts business in terms of growth of
people are way more capable than they think.
Yes, you have way more potential inside than you're even aware of, and I think that's part of a reason we chose Wellspring as our, just this idea that you are just a spring of potential that's just waiting to bubble up to the surface, right?
Well, if you think of a person who has clarity, which we're going to probably talk about in our next podcast,
I think so.
But somebody who has a clear mission, and then somebody who has developed awareness on many levels and has built confidence. I mean, you just think of somebody who's able to maximize their potential, right? And realize their goals and live life more fully, and effectively,
in the area that they've been blessed to do so.
All right, you guys. Well, thanks for joining us today. Once again, we hope you can take these things and use them to get from where you are to where you want to be.